Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Jones from the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. And I want to introduce you to an amazing medicinal plant. This is the story of a country girl that has made it to the top of the charts of modern medicine. I mean, she is so beautiful and so amazing and so talented that they really ought to be rolling out the red carpet wherever she goes. Oh, and look, there she is. Artemisia annua, sweet wormwood. What a beauty. She is so scraggly and so weedy and so green and stemmy. Just look at those legs. I mean, straight as a stick. It just takes my breath away. But not only is she beautiful, but she's really talented, amazingly talented. I mean, she wins major awards. She got a Nobel Prize in 2015. They gave her the Nobel Prize for her work. Well, they didn't give it to her, actually, because she doesn't have a neck to hang it on, but they gave it to a nice Chinese lady that was a friend of hers. But we'll get into that more later. So here it is, sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua. Originally, this plant's from China, but it's now growing on like every continent. Except Antarctica. They don't have any Artemisia annua fields in Antarctica. But I see it here in Idaho, which feels a little like Antarctica today. And whenever I do see it, I'm really happy because it's a fantastic medicinal. Um, so let's talk about it a little bit. It's in the Asteraceae family, which is the daisy family. But, so big deal. Everybody's in the daisy family, practically. It's a huge family. But the common names are, the Chinese call it qing shao. And the most people call it sweet wormwood. Okay, the Chinese have been using it for thousands of years, so they can call it whatever they want. I'm not having any problem with them calling it qingxiao. We call it sweet wormwood where I live, but lately it's been also getting called Sweet Annie. I think she changed her name. Wasn't getting any prom dates. Nobody wanted to take her seriously. Sweet wormwood. Who wants to go to the prom with her? But Sweet Annie. That's a good move. Better stage name. But anyway, sweet wormwood. Sweet Annie, Artemisia annua, those are all good names for her. The name, the Latin name is Artemisia annua, and annua means annual. Most of her cousins are perennials. She's in the same family, the same genus as sagebrush and mugwort and a lot of other guys. And a lot of those Artemisias are perennials, so this one's an annual, so they call her annua. And Artemisia, of course, comes from the Greek goddess Artemis, who was Apollo's twin sister. And she was a hunter lady, and she liked, wild, rough places, which is where these plants always live. And also, she was in charge of the moon, which is silvery, and these plants have sort of a silvery, bluish-green leaf color, so that was sort of a nod to Artemis, too. Um, you know, Getting off a little track here, but what were Zeus and Hera thinking? I mean, who gives their teenage kids a star and a moon as their first vehicles? I mean, really? She puts a big dent in the thing every month. I always started my kids with an old beater like Plymouth, that was 20 years old. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the plant. Uh, so, Artemisia annua, let's talk a little bit about some of the medicinal properties. Okay. Like I said, back in 2015, a Chinese scientist, her name was Tu Yu, if I'm pronouncing that right, and if I'm not, I apologize. But Tu Yu received the Nobel Prize for discovering and describing and looking for ways to apply a chemical that's found in sweet wormwood called artemisinin. Okay, and artemisinin has some really amazing properties, but the property she was looking at particularly was its anti-protozoal properties. And so protozoans are single-celled, little microorganisms that cause disease, and they cause all kinds of diseases. One of the really big ones that kills, countless people every year is malaria. It's a protozoal disease. It's spread by mosquitoes, right? So the mosquito sucks up some protozoans from one guy and injects them into the next guy. And this happens all over the world. Malaria is common all over, about anywhere you have mosquitoes. And Dr. Tu Yu's work on this artemisinin that she got out of the sweet wormwood has had a huge, profound impact on the treatment of malaria cases. And I mean, countless people's lives have been saved because of her research. And so she got the Nobel Prize, and well-deserved. But it's not just malaria. It's not just that Plasmodium protozoan that it kills. It kills all kinds of protozoal diseases. I mean, there's been research, a lot of exciting research going on. It kills trypanosomes, which is the one that causes African sleeping sickness. Trypanosomiasis is what they call it. It kills toxoplasmosis, which is a pretty serious infection, especially for pregnant ladies. They can catch it it's spread by cats. Cats are an intermediate host. And so it's really important for pregnant women not to change the litter box because you can get toxoplasmosis. So if you're pregnant, make your husband change the litter box. That'll be good for him anyway. But Artemisia annua, sweet wormwood, also interferes with Toxoplasma gondii, which is the guy that causes toxoplasmosis. It also has activity against Cryptosporidium, which causes cryptosporidiosis, a horrible gastrointestinal disease, really bad diarrhea, really hard to treat. But artemisinin works really well on it, right? It also works on babesia, which is a serious disease in some developing countries. It works on giardia, which is a disease that's common anywhere that there's creeks to drink out of, and can be really hard to treat and really miserable. Works on that one. It even works on amoebic dysentery, which is a really serious protozoal disease that kills people. And so, I mean, how many protozoans is that? And that's not all of them. I mean, we don't have all day to talk about everything it does. But, just that handful of diseases, if that's all that it could help with, it would be an astounding plant, right? But that's not all it helps with. It also has some really powerful antiviral properties, especially for respiratory viruses. There's been a lot of really exciting research. There's a lot of research going on right now on Artemisia annua, sweet wormwood, and it's specifically that phytochemical artemisinin that's in it against rhinoviruses. And rhinoviruses is the one that causes colds, head colds a lot of times. It has strong activity against influenza viruses. It has activity against respiratory syncytial virus, which is RSV that little kids can get and have trouble with. And especially, there's a lot of amazing research going on with it in coronaviruses, like SARS and COVID and other coronas that are respiratory viruses. I don't know if anybody's heard of any of those lately, but there's been a lot of that going around. The studies are showing that it interferes with the coronaviruses. It interferes with viral attachment. And what it does is it binds to that spike protein. The spike protein is involved with attaching to the receptors on the human cells and et cetera. We could go into that for 2 hours if you want. But in the interest of time, we'll just say that it interferes with viral attachment. Okay, so the virus can't attach to the cell, and if it can't attach to the cell, it can't insert its RNA into the cell and reprogram the cell to make more viruses. So, I mean, this is one I take. If I feel like I've been exposed to a respiratory bug, I'm always taking some sweet wormwood, and most of the time I don't get the respiratory bug. And so, as a preventative, it's great, or as a treatment, because it's also, even if you have the bug already, it's interfering with that virus attaching to other cells in your body, right? So that's good. It's also interferes with viral replication. Okay, there's a chemical, an enzyme that's an essential part in the mechanism of viral reproduction called RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. Okay, and without getting into all the details, basically, when you interfere with that enzyme, you interfere with reproduction. All right. So in layman's terms, basically, sweet wormwood is jamming up the copy machine of the virus. Okay. So it can't make any more viruses. That's how viruses work. They inject their blueprints into the cell, and then the cell gets reprogrammed and starts producing more viral particles. Right. Viruses can't produce by themselves. They're not living things. Right. They're just little strips of RNA or DNA that get poked into our cells and start reproducing themselves with the cell's help. And so artemisinin from sweet wormwood interferes with that enzyme that's a critical part of that replication process. All right, so it makes it so it can't make any copies. And some of those things, the attachment and the viral replication, are also happening with the other viruses we mentioned, the influenza viruses, the rhinoviruses, the respiratory syncytial viruses, SARS, COVID, things like that. So it's really very effective in the early stages of viral infection, but also once you have the virus, it's very effective in slowing it down, beating it up a little bit so that your immune system can get a handle on it and kill it before it reproduces so much. Anyway, an amazing, amazing plant for anti-protozoal and antiviral stuff. And I mean, that's just the beginning. It does all kinds of other stuff too. And we've talked about, sweet wormwood for, I don't know, how long we've been talking here, 20 minutes? We've only touched on 2 of its properties, and we barely scratched the surface of those 2. I mean, we could get into it for hours on either of those topics, how it works, why it works, when to use it, what bugs to use it specifically for. And we didn't even talk about all the other stuff. We didn't talk about the anti-inflammatory stuff or the antipyretic, antifungal, anti-cancer. Some very exciting news there with research. It's a carminative. It has immunomodulatory effects. I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff that we can't even begin to dig into here. There's just not time in a YouTube video to go into the depth we'd like to. But I hope that I've spiked your interest a little bit in this plant, this Artemisia annua. It really is an astoundingly beneficial medicinal plant. So I'm Dr. Patrick Jones from the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed getting to know sweet wormwood a little bit. She's an amazing rascal, and wow, what a blessing to have that plant in the world for all the remarkable things that it's doing. I wish we had time on YouTube to talk for 3 hours about it, but it just isn't really the platform for that sort of thing. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button, and if you'd like to see more, click on the subscribe button. And if you think somebody else ought to know about this amazing plant, maybe click that share button. We really appreciate all that kind of support. And if you'd like to really learn about Artemisia annua and all the things it does, we didn't even talk about how to plant it, how to grow it, how to harvest it, when to harvest it, how to use it, what are the applications, what are the pros and cons, what are the contraindications, what are the other dozen things it does amazingly well. If you'd like to learn at that level, have a look at the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. I think you'd really enjoy it. I'd love to join you on that journey. I'm Dr. Patrick Jones, and thanks very much for listening.
Yeah.